The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, has claimed a significant first, reportedly using an F-35 fighter jet to shoot down an Iranian aircraft in combat. According to the Israeli military, an F-35I Adir engaged and destroyed an Iranian YAK-130 over Tehran. This event marks the first time an F-35 has successfully shot down a manned aircraft. The incident occurred amidst the 10th Israeli offensive targeting the Iranian capital. The IDF stated on Wednesday that an Israeli Air Force F-35I fighter jet downed the Iranian YAK-130 over Tehran, calling it a world first for the F-35 in aerial combat. In their statement, the IDF clarified that the Adir, Israel's version of the F-35 stealth fighter, executed the interception within Iranian airspace directly above the capital city. Reports indicate that the Iranian pilot took off while Israeli aircraft were already operating in the area. The IDF noted that it remains unclear whether the Iranian pilot intended to engage the Israeli pilot in aerial combat, but the Israeli pilot identified the aircraft and subsequently shot it down. The Israeli Air Force's last confirmed aerial victory was on November 24, 1985, when an F-15 Baz fighter shot down two Syrian MiG-23s during an air battle over Lebanese airspace. The announcement followed shortly after the IDF reported launching its 10th wave of airstrikes on Tehran. In an earlier brief statement, the military indicated that the Israeli Air Force had initiated a series of large-scale airstrikes targeting infrastructure belonging to the Iranian regime within the capital. Officials have detailed that each strike involved dozens, sometimes hundreds, of aircraft operating with varied mission packages. They outlined two primary objectives: neutralizing ballistic missile threats and suppressing Iranian air defenses to maintain established air superiority. Iranian media outlets have reported on the renewed attacks in the Tehran area, with visuals showing plumes of smoke rising from the eastern part of the city. Reports from within Iran also described bombings in the northwestern city of Urmia. An IDF general has asserted that Hezbollah walked into a strategic trap by engaging in the conflict with Iran. The military claims that over 250 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon have been struck during the current escalation of tensions. These targets allegedly include missile launchers, command centers, weapons depots, and senior Hezbollah operatives. The IDF has conducted overnight airstrikes and artillery bombardments targeting Hezbollah operatives, command centers, and infrastructure in several regions of Lebanon, as Israel intensifies pressure on the Iranian-backed group in the face of ongoing regional conflict. The Israeli military stated that Israeli Air Force fighter jets attacked Hezbollah command centers in the Nabatea area of southern Lebanon, along with other targets associated with the group. In a rapid response operation lasting under 90 minutes, the IDF claims it located and destroyed a launch pad previously used to fire rockets toward Haifa and central Israel. According to the military, over 250 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon have been hit during the current escalation. These targets include missile launchers, command centers, weapons depots, and senior Hezbollah operatives. These attacks coincide with a large-scale evacuation in southern Lebanon. Approximately 300,000 residents have reportedly fled the area following the fighting, while the IDF issued additional evacuation notices to several villages on Wednesday. Israeli officials report that the operation is placing significant pressure on Hezbollah among the group's supporters. Supporters of the terror group, who have yet to receive compensation from previous rounds of fighting, are now facing damages from the renewed clashes. Commander of the Northern Command, Major General Rafi Milo, stated that Hezbollah has made a grave error in joining the conflict. Hezbollah walked into a strategic ambush, Milo told local leaders from northern Israeli communities during a meeting on Tuesday. Hezbollah made a serious mistake in joining this campaign. We will not stop until they suffer a crushing blow, he stated. Milo added that Israeli forces would continue to strike Hezbollah targets throughout Lebanon. We will strike the organization with force throughout Lebanon, whether in Beirut, Tyre, or Sidon, he said. He indicated that Israeli forces are maintaining a strong defensive posture along the Lebanese border and in areas of southern Lebanon where troops have been deployed. We have reinforced our defenses, including along the Syrian front, Milo said. To date, we have attacked approximately 250 targets, and we will continue to do so every day. According to the IDF, approximately 30 rockets were launched from Lebanon towards Israel overnight. Most were intercepted or fell in open areas. Debris from intercepted rockets fell in a residential area in the Galilee, causing significant damage. One person was treated for shock. All
3-4
agricultural work
days
within 2
for us to
kilometers
work
of the
out
Lebanese
where
border
we
has
can
been
land there. Would have been
suspended due
much
to
more
the
convenient
unstable
landing there
security
as opposed to
situation.
flying many
Several
extra
alerts were
hours.
also triggered
So we
overnight
are very
regarding
surprised.
suspected
This
drone
is
incursions from
not
Lebanon,
Winston
though no
Churchill that
casualties
we're
or
dealing
damage
with.
have been reported. Firefighters from the Galil Golan fire station responded to the scene where debris from the intercepts caused damage in a residential area. Rescue teams searched nearby buildings and the surrounding area for injured or trapped individuals. During the operation, firefighters also detected gas leaks caused by the impact and worked to contain them. In northern Israel, the IDF has shifted its operational methods following Hezbollah's engagement in the fighting. Military officials reported that a year and a half of limited law enforcement operations has ended, and the military is now implementing an offensive strategy that it has been preparing for months. Recent weeks, Israeli forces have conducted large-scale preparatory operations for both defensive and offensive scenarios. The IDF stated that the troop deployments in southern Lebanon, as previously announced, are defensive in nature, aimed at preventing attacks on Israeli border communities. Soldiers have positioned themselves in areas forward of Israeli communities along the border to thwart infiltration attempts or direct fire. Military officials stated that the number of artillery and tank units deployed in the area has tripled. The United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, remains stationed in its positions and is not interfering with IDF operations, according to the military. While the threat from Hezbollah anti-tank missiles has been significantly reduced by Israeli operations in recent years, military officials stated that the capability still exists. The IDF's immediate objective in the north is to suppress that threat. Military officials stated that the goal is to create a demilitarized zone approximately 8 kilometers deep from Israeli border communities to prevent attacks. The military is also employing tactics previously used in operations against Iran to locate and destroy rocket launchers in Lebanon to prevent further rocket fire into Israeli territory. "We are conducting a multi-front campaign that is expanding," the IDF stated. "As we strike Iran, we significantly weaken the entire axis." Military officials added that Israeli forces are currently engaged in what they describe as a defensive battle, although broader operational plans are in place should political leaders authorize further action. Meanwhile, the IDF reported that it has deployed the 146th Division to the Lebanese front. The Reserve Division, which has operated in Lebanon in past conflicts, has been mobilized to reinforce defenses along the western sector of the Lebanese border. Reserve forces from the division's brigades are deployed throughout the area and are a central component in defending the State of Israel, the IDF said. Undermining Israel's democratic foundations, Attorney General calls on Supreme Court to remove Ben-Gvir in an 83-page petition. Gali Baharav Miara argues that the National Security Minister is eroding the independence of the police and democratic norms and contends that the Prime Minister has a duty to remove him as wartime tensions escalate political conflict. Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara on Wednesday called on the Supreme Court to order the removal of National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, arguing that his conduct undermines the country's democratic foundations and the independence of the police force. In an 83-page response to petitions filed with the court, totaling some 450 pages including appendices, Justice Baharav Miara wrote that unless there is a very substantial change in the underlying circumstances, and unless Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets the burden of proving why he hasn't removed Ben-Gvir, the court should issue an interim order and compel action. In the current situation, she wrote, absent a significant change in the factual infrastructure, and as long as the Prime Minister does not meet the burden of explaining why he is not ordering Ben-Gvir's removal from his position as National Security Minister, the Attorney General's position is that there is a need to issue an absolute order in the petitions. Baharav Miara stated that her position is based on what she described as a substantial factual record concerning Ben-Gvir's conduct since his appointment, as well as earlier documents that she claims the Prime Minister has not substantively addressed. She also cited the lack of safeguards and mechanisms to ensure the proper professional and egalitarian operation of the Israel police, particularly in the context of what she described as the Prime Minister's failure to act. She wrote that while the Prime Minister has wide latitude in appointing and dismissing ministers, latitude influenced by political and coalition considerations, that authority is not unlimited and is subject to judicial review. The Prime Minister, as part of the executive branch, must adhere to the rules of administrative law and the obligation to exercise his authority reasonably. In exceptional cases when the fundamental values of the constitutional and legal system so require, for example, when the manner in which a minister carries out his duties directly, severely, and irreparably undermines the foundations of the government with which he is entrusted, the authority to remove a minister is no longer a matter of discretion but an administrative duty. Ben-Gvir responded sharply, accusing the Attorney General of orchestrating what he called a wartime government coup. At a time when the State of Israel is engaged in one of the most important and fateful wars in its history, a criminal official who has been ousted is trying to carry out a government coup in a democratic country and to remove a legally elected official, Ben-Gvir said in a statement. There is no precedent in democratic countries for an official to remove a legally elected official. Gali Baharav Miara thinks we are in Iran, and soon she and her criminal official friends will establish the Revolutionary Guard here. Democracy will prevail. Defense Minister Israel Katz also dismissed the Attorney General's appeal to the court, arguing that addressing such issues during what he described as one of the most important and complex wars in Israel's history is inappropriate. Beyond the matter of principle, it is impossible to deal with this type of issue during wartime, which concerns a minister who plays a central role in decision-making and maintaining internal security, Katz said. Israel needs unity at this time, and maintaining unity requires everyone's participation. This marks the first time Katz has publicly addressed the petition seeking Ben-Gvir's removal. Other ministers have also voiced opposition to Baharav Miara's move. Last month, the Supreme Court issued a conditional order requiring the Prime Minister to explain why he has not removed Ben-Gvir. Amid calls from opposition coalition leaders for Netanyahu to defy the court's ruling, the justices expanded the panel hearing the case to 9 justices, citing the importance and complexity of the issues involved. The court has scheduled a hearing for March 24th and has ordered the Prime Minister and National Security Minister to file sworn affidavits by March 10th. Earlier on January 1st, Baharav Miara requested that the court compel Netanyahu to explain why he has not removed Ben-Gvir. At the time, she wrote that Ben-Gvir had abused his office to improperly influence the operations of the Israel police in the most sensitive areas of law enforcement and investigation, undermining basic democratic principles. In an earlier legal opinion, she accused Ben-Gvir of systematically and unlawfully interfering in police work, exceeding his authority, and issuing operational directives in the field, which she argued is prohibited by law. She argued that the public could no longer be protected from what she described as the sabotage of police independence, transforming the organization into a political tool. Last April, Ben-Gvir and Baharav Miara reached a settlement agreement regarding his involvement in police matters, allowing her office to defend him against petitions calling for his ouster. After that agreement, Ben-Gvir was prohibited from interfering in matters relating to protests, interviewing police officers, and interfering in operational activities. However, in her January opinion and in her latest response to the court, Baharav Miara argued that Ben-Gvir has repeatedly violated that compromise. She wrote that as discussions turned to implementation steps, disagreements arose and it became clear that the document was merely a set of statements without the possibility of practical enforcement. Officials fear interceptor shortage could force early into war with Iran. Pentagon officials are concerned that if a war lasts for weeks, a limited supply of air defense weapons could become a key factor in determining how long the operation can be sustained. After more than a year of large-scale military operations, the United States faces an unprecedented concern: the possibility that its stockpile of air defense interceptor missiles could be depleted as a war with Iran continues. And Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, briefed President Donald Trump on the risks of a large-scale and expanded campaign against Iran. He specifically warned of ammunition shortages and a lack of broad military support from U.S. allies, according to U.S. officials familiar with the discussions. Pentagon leaders have repeatedly expressed concern about ammunition stockpiles. This issue is now being tested as Washington rushes to find a way to end the conflict. The deaths of 6 U.S. soldiers in Kuwait have heightened tensions within the Department of Defense. The exact size of the U.S. air defense interceptor missile stockpile is kept secret. However, successive confrontations in the Middle East have gradually reduced the supply in the region. One of the challenges is that interceptor stockpiles are depleting very quickly. Kelly Grieco, a defense expert, told the Wall Street Journal, "We're using them faster than we're replenishing them." U.S. forces have been actively involved in numerous operations in the region, including naval operations in the Gulf of Oman, where U.S. forces said they destroyed 11 Iranian warships during the conflict. Pentagon officials are concerned that if a war lasts for weeks, a limited supply of air defense missiles could become a key factor in determining how long the operation can be sustained. One official said that the public may not fully understand the strain these operations place on stockpiles, noting that it often takes 2 or 3 interceptors to ensure a single incoming missile is destroyed. Representative Adam Smith of Washington, the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, said the campaign would exacerbate already strained shortages in ammunition supplies. "This is one of the things that should have been thought through beforehand," Smith said. "We can't say, hey, Iran, our missile defenses are running low, so let's take a break. This undermines the ability to defend everything we need to defend." Trump has dismissed concerns about shortages. In recent remarks and social media posts, he has said that the U.S. has a virtually unlimited supply of essential munitions and that the U.S. medium and high-end ammunition stockpile has never been larger or better. The president also criticized his predecessor, Joe Biden, accusing him of depleting U.S. arsenals by providing weapons to Ukraine without adequately replenishing them. "But I rebuilt our military," Trump said. President Macron condemns U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, deploys flagship aircraft carrier to Middle East. French president declares France cannot support U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran, emphasizes Iranian responsibility. French President Emmanuel Macron sharply criticized the United States and Israel on Tuesday for launching military attacks against Iran, branding the decision to strike as beyond the bounds of international law. He simultaneously announced the deployment of French military assets to the Middle East, including the flagship aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle. In a televised address, Macron stated that France could not endorse the U.S. and Israeli offensive, while also stressing that Iran bears primary responsibility for the current situation. "The war in Iran is spreading throughout the region and causing serious consequences for peace and security," Macron warned. He cautioned Israel against initiating a ground operation in Lebanon, deeming such a move a dangerous escalation and a strategic mistake. At the same time, he stated that Hezbollah made a grave error in launching attacks against Israel and endangering the Lebanese people. In recent hours, the war has spread to Lebanon, where Hezbollah, in a serious mistake, has attacked Israel and put the Lebanese people in danger, Macron said. According to reports, Israel is considering a ground operation. That, too, would be a dangerous escalation and a strategic mistake. Macron urged Israel to respect the territory and sovereignty of Lebanon and affirmed France's solidarity with the Lebanese government in its efforts to regain control of national security. As fighting intensified across the region, Macron announced that France had deployed fighter jets, air defense systems, and radar capabilities to bolster the protection of Gulf nations facing attacks from Iran. France maintains defense agreements with Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, and Macron pledged French solidarity with these countries. He also stated that France would be sending air defense systems to Cyprus following reports of attempts to attack British military bases on the island in recent days using drones and potentially missiles. Air raid sirens have been sounding there since Sunday. In addition, Macron confirmed that he had ordered the dispatch of the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle and its strike group to the Mediterranean Sea. He said France was seeking to help build a coalition to safeguard freedom of navigation along critical shipping routes. The Charles de Gaulle, France's flagship vessel, is the nation's only nuclear-powered aircraft carrier and the largest warship in the French Navy. Commissioned, the vessel has a displacement of 38,000 tons and is 261.5 meters, 858 feet long, with a top speed of around 27 knots, 50 km/h. The crew consists of nearly 2,000 personnel, including approximately 600 aviation specialists. The aircraft carrier previously supported U.S. operations in Afghanistan in 2001 and later participated in the U.S.-led campaign against the Islamic State IS group in Syria and Iraq in 2015. In December of last year, Macron confirmed plans to construct a new, larger aircraft carrier to eventually replace the Charles de Gaulle, announcing the project during a visit to French forces stationed in Abu Dhabi. Macron's statements reflect France's efforts to strike a balance between criticizing the U.S. and Israeli military campaign while adopting an increasingly assertive military posture to protect French interests and allies in the region as the conflict escalates. Amidst the roar of fighter jets across the Middle Eastern skies, the tit-for-tat attacks between Israel, Iran, and allied forces are edging the region closer to a large-scale conflict unseen in decades. From the F-35's first-ever air-to-air kill of a manned aircraft to intense airstrikes in Tehran, Lebanon, and political infighting within Israel, it's clear this war is not just on the battlefield, but also in the realms of diplomacy, politics, and the global balance of power. Meanwhile, major powers like the US and France are rapidly deploying forces, preparing for unforeseen scenarios. The biggest question now is no longer who is winning, but rather, will this conflict end here, or will it ignite a larger war in the Middle East? The world is watching every development. If you want to stay updated on the latest developments in the Israel-Iran conflict and the situation in the Middle East, hit the follow button, leave a comment, and share the video so more people can be informed. The latest information and in-depth analysis will be updated as soon as new developments occur. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next news update.